Hello, this is Duncan Meskill, and this video we're going to be discussing how to use the Tradestation Charting Tool. There are many features that are available to Tradestation, but it's absolutely known for its charting, and so I'm going to show you some of the ways you can effectively use that. If you're new to Tradestation, this will be hopefully a valuable tool for you, but if you're already familiar with the Tradestation Charting Tool, then you can absolutely skip over it. So to start, I just want to show you that you'll have this little toolbar at the top, and to create a new chart you'll click that little zigzag line there, and that usually brings in a chart. Okay, and I just double clicked on that bar to maximize it. And what will happen is for each window, you'll typically have one window in a workspace. You can have more than one. You can minimize this, and I can put an additional chart in here. I can copy this by right clicking on it and copy it and paste the window, and I can have multiple charts in a single workspace, and then I can have multiple workspaces. So this really makes it where you can just see the market from every different angle possible. So in this case I'm looking at Harley Davidson, and let's say we want to look at the S&P futures. You can go up there to that bar, and then if we want to, we can link them so that you notice this one's S&P futures and this one's still Harley Davidson. So we can link them by symbol in any color that you want. We'll link these two charts together. So now if I go up and change it, they're both linked together. Now, right now you're probably saying, well, why do you have two of the same chart? That's a good valid question. And what I'd like to do is maybe see one on an hourly basis, and then go up here to this little clock, and you can change the interval very easily. And then they also have it by shares, and then they have some advanced charts that you can use, but I'll stick to the timed ones. So you can see up here, this is daily and this is hourly. And what's really interesting about this is, then we introduce you to fractals, because you look at these and you say, well, they still look the same. Well, that's because of the nature of fractals and why fractals are important. So that's how you create these charts or these windows within a workspace. And then on top of that, the entire collection of workspaces. I can create a new workspace by doing it this way, new workspace, or I like it because I do it a lot, is Control-Alt-W also creates a workspace. So this is blank, and now we can add another chart. But let's say you don't just like the line charts with the open. I mean, this doesn't really show us a whole lot. I mean, there are other ways to see. So you can go up here to Format Symbol, and in that, if you click the Style tab, you can make this an open high, and it'll show you an example candlestick, or what I use, which is the candlestick with trend. And the difference between the candlestick and the candlestick with trend is you see where the open and close is by if it's a hollow bar, the open, well, let me just show you. Just basics on candlesticks real quick here. If you already know this, bear with me, it takes 2 seconds. But if it's a hollow bar, then that means the open was down here and the close was up here at the body of the candle. And then of course this would be the high and this would be the low. If it's a solid bar and it's red, then this would be the open and then this would be the close. But what you'll see is sometimes, and this is really important because these candles are important, is sometimes you'll get a solid green bar or a hollow red bar where it gaps up and then closes in the reverse direction. And I don't see any. Anyway, but this is something that's nice. And then on top of that, we have the ability, you notice I click on the background dragging. By default, you can't do that. So that'll throw you. In order to be able to do that, you have to click this button for background dragging. But I honestly think this is one of the absolute best parts of the tool. A lot of people probably take this for granted, but you can't do this on a lot of other platforms. and that's one of the major reasons why I like this. I also like, because I can make this a lot easier to see. I can shrink the time frame, or I can just leave it the same time frame and condense it by clicking these arrow buttons. And a lot of other tools will allow you to do that, but then I can I can rescale it here, which is really nice. And that's just the candlesticks, which is only touching the very tip of the iceberg. There's so much more we can do with this. We can insert an analysis technique, and there are only a few platforms, in my opinion, that really compete with this. But out of the box, there's a lot. You'll see a lot that I've got that are not out of the box, but there is a lot in here that it comes with. A lot of stuff that I've developed, but not out of the box. But the averages, which are really required, really easy to add. But there's a lot more. There's all kinds of channels and Bollinger Bands, and what I've got this set up to be is the magenta is the 200, the cyan is the 50 period moving average, and the yellow is the 20. And these are 3 moving averages. They're very important for a lot of people, and the reason that they're still used is because that's what people are looking at. So it's good to have it on your chart. But you can also throw on additional indicators, like say you want to throw on a MACD. I'm pretty sure it comes with that straight out of the box. And it's real easy to add. And then on top of that, let's say you don't like a color. Let's say, on the moving averages, your 200 period moving average is not purple and you want it to be white. Well, you can just double click on it and then go to color, and then that's where you'll be able to select all of the different plots in that particular indicator. In this case, this indicator has 3 plots. It has 3 inputs with the fast length, medium length, and slow length, and then it's got 3 plots. So I could just go to the color, select that plot, and instead of making it magenta, make it white. Okay, that's how you change it, and you can do the same thing down here. Now, I will warn you on some indicators, like I don't know if you can. Some indicators, like this histogram where it's turning pink and then dark red, that's the same plot, so the color is being changed in the code somewhere. Typically you'll go look at the inputs, and here's at least where part of it is. So you can try to change those colors, but sometimes you got to get into the code, is what I'm saying, to change those colors. But if it's an indicator that I've created, 9 times out of 10 you can change those colors. Just from like the white, you could just change it up here and change it to magenta or whatever. Okay. So I've showed you how to link charts. I've showed you the workspaces, so we could go back to the original one very quickly. Showed you how to add indicators. Showed you basically how to drag stuff around and then resize it by time. One thing I will show you here is really important, just kind of little gotchas, is when you format the symbol, by default it's going to have a certain amount of time that goes with it. So if this is a 5-minute chart right now, mine's defaulting to 5 days back. A lot of times that's not going to be how much time that you need, and it may look funky. So if it doesn't go back far enough, especially some of these indicators that need a look back period, greater than the number of bars that are by the default. So that's just something to keep in mind. The other thing is that you don't want to set this too high. Like for daily, if you're pulling back a year's worth of data and you're scrolling through a lot of different charts, a lot of different indexes, that could take a lot of time to pull all that historical data back. Not so much for daily data, but when you start getting down to 5 minutes, like let's say you're pulling a year's worth of 5-minute data, that's going to slow down the drawing of the chart. And when you're looking at charts and you need to look at them in near real time, you don't want to have that to be any more than you need it to be, is what I'm trying to say. So 5 days for here on a 5-minute chart is plenty, because I'm not going to be going all the way back. I'll probably look at a different time frame. One other thing I want to show you that's pretty cool is the ability to not only link the symbols, but I can link them where I'm at on the mouse. And this is always, I always have to remind myself where it's at. But if you go to drawing and pointer tracking, I can set it to track all the same window on a workspace. So if I'm just on this workspace, you'll see that I'm actually, if I move over on the daily chart, it's updating, or I can do it like this. If I'm moving on, you can see on the daily chart what day that is, as opposed to the 60-minute chart. That's kind of neat, because then I can click over here and I can say, show me, I just want to see what that chart looks like, and it looks like I lost the focus here. This throws me all the time, and I'm glad I saw this so that I can explain it to you. Alright, I'm clicking on this day. Well, I'm not seeing any change on the chart on the right on the 60-minute, so it doesn't make any sense to me, and it doesn't go back far enough. That's that's one of those things where you gotta think about why it might not be updating. So that's quite a few days back. I mean, it's like, we'll just say 200 days back. Now you see this yellow PD, that means it's pulling back data and it's updating. So when that's done, then we've got, okay, so now it just downloaded the data, redrew the chart. So now, okay, so now it's working. So if I click on this day and I want to see what this reversal looked like, and of course the following day was pretty strong. So that just kind of gives us an idea. And you can do this globally. I could go back to pointer tracking and then click over here and it shows me that same day. Well, if I had the data that went that far back, again, it's got to go back far enough. So when you have the global pointer tracking going, that's definitely one thing that you want to make sure you understand. It's kind of tricky. It's a nice feature, but honestly I don't use it a whole lot. If I want to look at a specific day, I will just go back to that day on that smaller time frame. But if you look at fractals extensively, I can see where that is definitely used. A few other things I want to show you real quick. If you ever lose your data like this, one way that you can do that is you can drag down well, or you could just click off of the pointer tracking. But let's say you lose it, you could just condense it until you see it, or you can go to Format Symbol and do Automatic, and then it'll set itself to be automatic on the screen. It will, if you have the background dragging turned off, it'll stay that way. So some people use it like this. They don't want to be able to drag it. They just want to be able to go back and forth, left and right. I personally prefer to have the background dragging on. And as soon as you click and drag it, it turns off the automatic updating. So it relies on you from that point on. But if you ever need to set it back, just right click on the background and go to Format Symbol. And then automatic on the range. One of the other things that I think is really cool about the tool with the charting is if we get down to, like, this is a 5-minute chart of the S&P futures, it really comes in handy to be able to see the pre and post market data. And next to this little clock, there's like another little clock, and here we can change to pre and post market or the regular session, or you can even define something custom. And here I just want, it's with the S&P it won't work because it's pretty much 24-hour data, but let's look at it with something like one everybody looks at is Apple. Everybody loves Apple. Okay, with a 5-minute, and I'm going to come over here, change it to pre and post market data. And so now I can see with these bars, and you can change the color by formatting the symbol. If you don't like dark green and dark red, that might actually be hard to see. We can change it to cyan and blue if we want to. I don't know that makes it any easier, but well, not at all. Because I changed the days as well. And that was make that cyan. How's that? There we go. A little bit easier. So anyway, this is what happens after 4, and then it picks it back up at 8 o'clock. It ends at 8 p.m., picks back up at 8 a.m., and then goes up until 9:30. It is important to know what's going on here. You can see that there are some huge volatility swings. And in my experience, if you want to draw a horizontal line, I'll show you these over here. This is really important on the charting. But let's say you just want to draw a line, you can kind of see that there's something going on up here with the overnight trading that might indicate that there might be some resistance here. And sure enough, when we get into the next day's trading, I've got 2 bars right here, one that closes and then one that opens right here, right on that level, and then a lot of tests where we have wicks right above that level. So something was going on there, and then of course it reversed lower. So let me take you through some of these tools. I just showed you the horizontal line. I'll show you the ones that I use the most, but you can do, there's a lot of different ones that you can use. Fibonacci retracement lines are really valuable tool. Gives you an idea of where it's going. These are not the default, so I'll show you what I recommend that you use is 23.6, 38.2, 50, 61.8, and then for the extension lines, negative 27.2, negative 61.8, and then I also throw out 100 and 300 for extreme moves. The reason they're negative is because these are the extensions and these are the actual retracements. So the purple line kind of tells us the intended target, reversal zone, if it gets up here. And then this is where it would actually retrace, and we see it comes down, gets down into the 38.2, and then doesn't even stay there very long. Fibonacci retracement lines, very valuable tool. Horizontal lines, pretty easy. Just marks the day. A lot of times, you don't want to put too much in, but you want to see what day that is. You can just hold the control key and it'll bring up the data box, and that way I can say, okay, what day was that? And by holding the control key, I can see exactly what that day was, and then see some of the other data. Let's say you have a whole bunch of indicators on there, and you say, I want to know the value of a specific MACD. You can right-click in the backspace, and you can view the data window, and this shows you the data for basically every plot. If you have a lot of indicators, you're going to fill this window up quickly. You'll have to scroll up and down. I don't usually have this up unless I'm troubleshooting something, and I want to make sure that I understand the data is really working correctly in the indicator. But so I can click on any bar, and it's showing me the data for that bar, the MACD, the open, high, low, the date. That comes in handy if you need to see it, and it takes 2 seconds to bring it up. Again, you just right click and it's view data window. A lot of times I'll make notes on my charts, and I'm sure that you will want to as well. It's okay. I don't have a lot. I can't click on it and easily edit it. Usually I have to, I'll double click on it, and there's not really any place that I can go and change the data. Kind of limiting in that regard. However, it does cover the bases, and what I'll do is just put a bunch of one-liners in there, and then I'll hit Shift Enter to create another line. But you'll notice it actually creates a new text box altogether. It's not that big of a deal. Shift and Control do not allow me to highlight them all. So you'll have to basically move each one of these individually if you want to read. It's a little bit of a hassle, to be honest with you, but It's not the end of the world, and at least I can add a note on a chart. If you save this chart and then you close it and reboot your computer and come back to it, this note will still be there. And that's where I think it's really a valuable tool. It will not be on all charts. It will not be over here. The note is on the chart that you put it on. And if I change the time frame, well, a lot of times you will lose it. I went from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. Let's put it on daily. Okay, so you can still see it, but it may disappear on you is what I'm trying to say. So try to stick the notes on the time frame and make sure that if you're going to refer back to that, have a different chart with a different time frame. If you want to make a note of a certain pivot, you can just grab that circle tool. That comes in real handy. And there's a lot more here that you can play with. It has pretty much all of the tools that you could want or need in terms of editing. I love that you can drag this around and you can just resize it very easily and put it in perspective very quickly. If I wanted to expand or shrink the chart, I can see that. That's really nice. I hope you found this video to be helpful. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments, and I appreciate your feedback. Thanks.